All right, class, let's talk about function parameters. So we've beat range up pretty good. We know that the range function has the potential to take 3 parameters: a start, a stop, and a step. So once again, you've been working with this for a couple weeks now, and it's nothing new. So when you go to design your own functions, a little bit more thought has to go into your design, your pseudocode, to say. But let's cover these notes. So we already discussed how range is a built-in function, and it requires some arguments, and it could take up to 3: start, stop, step. So within the name section of the parameter, within the name of a function. So when you define a function and you say, function 1, we'll give it a name. Right here, within the parentheses is where you would define your arguments. And a parameter is a variable that an argument is stored in. So when we talk about the range function, and you type, let's just type this out. When you call on the range function and you say start, stop, step, do it correctly, and you hit enter. So this is your start, this is your stop, this is your step. The parameters, once you fill the spaces, are called arguments, and these arguments are then passed to the range function statements to be used as variables. So let's break it down a little further. So inside the function, the arguments are assigned to a variable called parameters, and they're defined within the parentheses of the function definition, separated by commas, what we just discussed. Note the terminology. Let me make this big. The names given in the function definition are called parameters, whereas the values you supply to the function are called arguments. Moderately confusing, but just think of the range function. Hopefully that clears it up for you. But let's dive right into this first example right here. So I'm going to go ahead and type it out. I'm going to define, print twice. I'm going to throw in the parameter name of the phrase. And I'm going to end my statement. And then I'm going to say print, call on my parameter, which at this point will be defined when I use it and will be the argument. The phrase. Cut and paste this line again. I'll hit enter. My function is now in memory, ready for me to use. And when I type the function name, print twice, and then I fill that parameter with my argument. And in this case, I use the example of spam. And I'll hit enter. The function takes my argument, fills it in place of the parameter and argument variable, and then prints it twice. Awesome. Let's take it a step further, right? Let's call out our variable again. We're going to do all the examples off to the left, and we'll throw an integer in there, 17. Hit enter. 17 prints twice. Excellent. Do this. Call on spam again, and we'll throw some multiplication at it by 4. So think of that. Each line is going to print twice, and our parameter that we filled with this argument of basically the string times 4 then prints twice. Awesome. Now we can get even more tricky with this, right? So what do we have here? Oh, that calls it the max function. So here we call on our function, print twice, parenthesis, call on another function, a built-in function in this case, called max spam. You have to double it up. And now it prints the max value of our string twice, which is the P in this case. Pretty cool stuff. So parameters, arguments are used as variables within your script statements. Then here's the important thing. When your function is done with the script statements, those parameters and arguments are cleared from memory. So your function, when called upon again, is ready for fresh arguments. So that's cool. So let's keep on going. Let's see, use a variable. Okay, this gets fun, right? So this statement over here, we define a function, print twice. We've already done this, right? And then we say status. This is a test. So we created a variable called status with this string value. And then we say print twice status. Okay, print twice is already in memory. Let's do status equals, this is a test. All right, we'll do that. And we'll say call on our print twice function that we defined. And now let's give it the argument of our variable status and hit enter. And we see that this is a test prints twice. Excellent. So let's move into multiple parameters. So here we define a function called print max. We define two parameters, A and B. And in the script statement, we say if A greater than B, print this, elif A is equal to B, else print B. So we could have two parameters. So let's go ahead and build this. Define print max. Give it A comma B. Let's see what we got here. We got if A greater than B, print. Let's see, A comma is maximum. We'll just say is max for brevity. Right. Go back to our elif statement. A is equal to B. Print. And we'll just do it quickly. We'll say A equal B. My bad. Let's call on these. Messing all this up. It's too early. There we go. Let's do our else. There's max. All right, we're loaded in the memory. Let's give it a try, right? So I'm going to say print max. Print max. Fill our parameters with our arguments. Hit enter. 4 is max. So we performed our elif statement on our two parameters. But here's the beauty of this. Now, instead of rewriting if-else statements, we could just leverage our function again and start throwing it more arguments. So it's reusable code. It saves you time from rewriting nested if-else statements or copying code. You can just call on your function over and over again within your program and get the max value. Or equal to, let's do an equal to one. Let's say 100 and 100, right? Equals 100. Awesome. So you can get your A or B max value. So that's very helpful. Reusable. Let's see. Literally pass, max, we did all this. Okay, concept of fruitful and void. So fruitful functions, they return a value. Awesome. A void, it performs an action but does not return a value. So we're going to talk about that and do some examples. So the return statement sends the computed value back to the calling code as the function result, which the assigned value to the variable x can be printed out. So let's take a look at this. So we define, this is leveraging return. We define function name, add2, give it 2 parameters, added a new variable within our function equals a plus b, our 2 arguments, return added. Return makes this value available outside of the function statement to the rest of your script. And in this case, we say x equals, call on our function, added 2, and then print x. Let's go ahead and do this. Let me refresh this screen over here. This is extremely helpful when you need to do another computation. Say if you had two functions, one performed a computation and returned a value that was then used in your second function. So it makes it available to that second function. So let's do this. Let's do def, add 2. We'll give it what is it, A and B? That's fine. So we got added equals A plus B. And here we call on the return function, and we call on our variable of added, which makes it that value available to the rest of the script. Hit enter. Now we're gonna if we just do added 2, we said 3, 3, we get 6. It prints it out right away. Now, if we do x equals, so it still returns the value within the shell, but now we want it we want to hold that value somewhere. So we say x equals, then we call on our function, give it example 3, 5, hit enter. Now x is loaded with the value of our function performing on our 2 arguments. So when we say print x, we get 8. Or if we just call on x, we get 8 from the shell. Awesome. Well, what if we had a print max? Let's go back to that joker, right? So if we still had our maximum function in place, we could call on added as one of our arguments, and then supply another integer to perform that this script block on our x, which is our added output. Pretty cool stuff. So here's a return statement with example 2. Basically, it makes x available, it makes y available if those statements are true, and you'll get your output back from max or maximum to 3. Let's talk about the pass function. So this goes into that void arena, right? The pass statement is used in Python to indicate an empty script or an empty block of statements. Sometimes you'll have multiple functions that call on each other, but there may be an instance where one of your functions is only used in a specific manner if your other functions actually have a value. So one of your functions may need to just pass. It's just like playing a card game. When it comes to your turn and you say check or pass, it just moves right along, keeps operating. No computations were performed, and that's basically it. It just says pass. So you define a function throw it the pass value. And let's see, that's about it. And then here we have an example with a variable for well, an example with a string and so it takes your argument and prints it out in concatenation with the string. So let's give this a shot as well. Define hello2. We got our parameters name. Hit enter. We say print hello, comma, or plus name. Do plus name. Let's see how this turns out, right? Hit enter twice. Hello2's loaded. I'll call on hello2. In the example, I use Alice. If I can spell. And there we go. Now you see that plus sign added it to hello. And to fix this, I'd have to go back into my function, redefine it, give it a space, hit enter, rerun hello Alice, and there's the space. So let's talk about what we covered in this video. A lot of material. We covered pass, we covered return, we covered parameters. When you enter a value into the parameter statement, they're arguments, and those arguments are passed to your script body or your statement block to perform actions on those variables or arguments. And that is function parameters. There'll be more videos on the way.